Hello and welcome to the Buckeyes postgame show. The roadman Kenny Rhoda here with you. The Buckeyes, a winner in the Big Ten championship game, 22-10 over Northwestern in what was a struggle, an ugly game, a frustrating game. Ryan Day, I don't know why it took him so long, and people are going to say, roadman, stop. Trey Sermon set the record for most rushing yards in a game in the history of Ohio State. Don't complain about not giving him the football enough. Well, I'm going to complain about not giving him and the other running backs the football enough because Justin Fields was terrible today before he hurt his thumb or his wrist or whatever it was. And Ryan Day kept Northwestern in the game by continually trying to throw the football when it wasn't there. The run game was there. I noticed that early. I sent it out on Twitter early. The run game was there. That's how you were going to beat Northwestern today. And it took Ryan Day and his stubbornness a long time into the third quarter to figure out the way to beat Northwestern is to run the football. As a play caller, you need to adjust. And it took him far too long and almost cost him the game. Yeah, they won 22-10, okay? And kudos to tip of the cap. Kudos to Kerry Combs, okay? And the defense for the adjustments they made in the second half. Outstanding. Defensively, they didn't give up any points in the second half. They created some turnovers. They stopped the run. They put pressure on Ramsey. And they were as big of a reason that Ohio State won this game as Trey Sermon was, okay? And who'd have thunk that when the season started and the way that defense was or wasn't playing, Trey Sermon looked terrible in the first couple of games for Ohio State. Who'd have thunk that in the Big Ten championship game, what won them their fourth consecutive Big Ten championship was the defense and Trey Sermon rushing for a record 331 yards, breaking Eddie George's old record of 314. Trey Sermon, tip of the WHBC cap to you. Offensive line, tip of the WHBC cap to you. Defense, tip of the cap to you. Great job in the second half by the O-line, Trey Sermon, and the defense. Justin Fields in the two biggest games of the year, 5 interceptions. What's that say about him? What are NFL scouts thinking about him? I don't know. And he hurt his wrist or his thumb late. He said he's going to have it x-rayed. Could tell he wasn't throwing it well before that, and he didn't throw it well late in the game either. So how does that affect things moving forward? Should the Buckeyes get into the college football playoff? Did they do enough? Did the Buckeyes do enough with a 22-10 win as the number 4 ranked team going into the action today? Did they do enough to earn a spot in the college football playoff? That may come down to what happens between Alabama and Florida, Notre Dame and Clemson. I mean, those are 4 teams right there that if Florida wins and they win the SEC and they shock Alabama, they think they should be in. Alabama with only 1 loss, right? You would think they would get in. If Clemson beats Notre Dame, they each have 1 loss to each other. Both of those teams think they should be in, and the Buckeyes have only played 6 games. They're 6-0, but struggled to win the Big Ten championship. Hopefully it's enough to get the Buckeyes in. Hopefully it's enough. All right, let's put some stats up here on the bottom of the page for you. And then we're going to get to your comments. We're going to get to your questions. I'm going to give you my thoughts, my reaction, me going crazy throughout the game, watching it, seeing what was developing and wondering why Ryan Day wasn't seeing that. Why do coaches, sometimes it takes them forever to understand that adjustments need to be made, that their game plan that they, had set up wasn't working. That maybe they were being outcoached, that maybe, just maybe, I'm just throwing it, maybe, Pat Fitzgerald and his game plan leading up to it and into the first half, well, it was a better game plan than your game plan. Make halftime adjustments. Defensively, they did. Offensively, it took them a while, but in the end, I know a win is a win is a win is a win. You'll take it and you move on, right? So I've got some devices working here. Let me see. Where can I get my comments? I'm learning how to use a new iPad. I'm learning how to use my phone with Twitter, my iPad. I'm using, let's see here. How do I get rid of this over here? I'm struggling on this thing here with my iPad. Okay, I won't worry about the iPad. We'll worry about you. We'll take your questions up here. So send me questions via Facebook. Send me questions via Twitter. Josh Palola is going to join me here shortly to talk about the Buckeyes escaping the Big Ten championship. A 12-point winner. They were favored by, I think, 21.5 was the highest. Came down to 17 when Olave didn't play today. And I know they were minus 22 guys, but the key guys they were missing were Browning on defense, Olave, and Chrisman. They didn't miss Chrisman. The punter, Hoover, whoever it was, 29, did a nice job today. Okay. Olave, they missed him, but still, I don't know how much he helps you in that passing game with the way Fields was playing and buckling under that pressure. So Quentin Singleton with the first comment for the show today, sending it out. OHIO, I got you. A win is a win. Quentin, yeah, they hopefully move on to the college football playoff. Let's see here. Who's this? Gustavo Tomazelli. Hey, what are you, Fonzie? What's up, Gustavo? Thanks for checking us out today here on the Buckeyes postgame show, brewed by Royal Docks Brewing Company. And Quentin wants to know this question: who are you picking for OSU to play in the play? I just want him to get there. Well, let's see what happens tonight. You can't be impressed with Ohio State's performance. I know 22 guys were down, 3 starters technically were down and all of that, but Justin Fields, forget the Heisman Trophy. The 2 games, the toughest ones of the year, Indiana, they barely won by 7. Struggled today to beat Northwestern by 12, and he was terrible in both of those games pretty much. So how are they viewed by the College Football Playoff Committee? They're undefeated. They've been 4 all year. They didn't lose. They won the Big Ten championship. You hope that's enough. You do. You hope that's enough. I think it is, but I'm not guaranteeing it in a pandemic year like this, the year of 2020, where crazy things have happened, right? But I think it's enough to get them in. But having said that, with the way they played today, can they beat Alabama right now? No. Can they beat Notre Dame? And I hate the Crying Irish, but no. Can they beat Clemson with the way they played today? No. So, I mean, does it do you any good getting in there and getting blown out or beat in the first round? I guess you just want to get there because, like I said, in this pandemic year of 2020, okay, you have a chance to win every game you play because you don't know what's going to happen to the other team with COVID and setbacks and outbreaks and everything like that. So I don't know. All right, let's bring in my buddy Josh Paloha here. And Josh, let me take you, unmute you, see if I know how to do this.
That was me. I was muted just in case.
Josh, are you unmuted on your end? Okay, I think you are. And I'm working with 3 different devices here today. All right, I got you now, Joshy.
Can you hear me?
Your thoughts on this ugly win by the Buckeyes, their 4th consecutive Big Ten title?
Never a doubt, right? Never.
Yeah, right. Come on, man. Come on. At what point were you concerned, Josh? At what point were you going like, oh, shoot. This
I'd say second quarter, just because Ryan Day, that was probably his worst coaching performance of the year. But Trey Sermon showed enough in the first half where halftime adjustments were easy. Just give Trey Sermon the ball the entire second half.
I mean, how could he not see that? Why did it take him, Josh, so long for the adjustments to be made? Why was he was it the Heisman Trophy thing with Justin Fields? Is he trying to get him the numbers? Is he just stubborn because he's a pass first coach? What do you think it was that took him so long to realize, oh, we can run for 1,000 yards on the ground today if we just give Trey Sermon the football? I
don't know. Justin Fields, I think, is clearly out of the Heisman talk even before this game, just because the games he's played and how much he's struggled the last few games. So I don't think it was that. I just think Ryan Day was just stubborn. I don't know. It was weird. Because, I mean, if you would have told me, I know we discussed this earlier in the season, Trey Sermon and Master Teague struggled for most of the year. If you would have told me that Ohio State's offense would lean on Trey Sermon to win a Big Ten championship, I would have thought that they lost by a couple touchdowns.
Right. I was hard on Trey Sermon early in the year. I really was.
I was too.
He did not have that burst. He did not look comfortable. Now, maybe again in the shortened year, the COVID year, the transfer and all that, maybe he was a little dinged up. Who knows? But I was hard on him, and I was waiting and waiting. I heard all about this Trey Sermon and what a great get it's going to be for Ohio State. And finally, last game against Michigan State, right, we saw a little bit of it. And then he sets the all-time record, Josh. I mean, Eddie George no longer stands atop of the record book for rushing yards in a game for Ohio State. 331, Trey Sermon in the Big Ten championship game. This is maybe even more impressive than Zeke Elliott's performance in the Big Ten championship game and that 59-0 win over Wisconsin, which led them eventually to a national championship, right?
Yeah, he had 271 yards in the second half. And I know at halftime we were all like, just run the damn ball the entire second half.
Right.
Well, Ryan Day did that, and Trey Sermon said, and he should have. The refs blew that last play.
Yeah. Come on, man.
He should have had that final touchdown too, but the refs blew the whistle a little too early, and you could tell he was angry. But hey, when you have 331 rushing yards, holy cow! No, I don't think anyone saw that coming, including us.
No. Yeah, and we got some messages here we'll throw up on the screen from our good buddy Adam Cerny, who checks us out all the time on the Buckeyes
Go
Post
Bucks.
By Royal Docks Brewing Company. Go Bucks, Roadman. Yeah, they won, Adam. Let's hope it's enough to get them in the college football playoff and nothing crazy happens tonight where it gives the committee a reason to not put Ohio State in. I can't, Josh.
Let's be honest. You can't leave.
Question, but
go.
I can't think the committee's not going to, right? They won. It wasn't pretty. They're undefeated. Justin Fields is still a draw. The brand is still a draw. They're not going to keep Ohio State out, are they?
You're not leaving an undefeated Ohio State team out of the playoff, no matter who else wins or loses. It's not going to happen. I mean, I'm not like 100% sure they're going to make it, but there's no way you keep an undefeated Big Ten champion Ohio State team out of the playoff. And you can even say, I mean, today they were without 14 scholarship players. I think last game they were without like 18 or 19. Okay. So you can kind of lean on that. I mean, Justin Fields wasn't himself today. I think he even said it after the game that he has a sprained wrist. He's going to get x-rays.
Yeah, but when did that happen, Josh? Yeah. I don't think that happened early in the game where it affected how horrible he was and his picks. Now, maybe the second one was on the receiver. You know, normally they were saying on the air that's usually Olave and it's a catch out of bounds. And six, I forget who six is for them. I got to look
Jamison Williams.
What's that?
Jamison Williams. He's a sophomore.
You know what it looked like? It looked like Olave last year on the last play against Clemson running the wrong route.
Where, we don't talk about that, Kenny. Come on.
But I mean, that's what popped into my head. You know, on that play, Fields is throwing the out to the sideline like he was throwing the post last year. And last year, Olave ran the corner and it was picked. And this one was almost, or was it picked? Was that play picked? Yeah, it was. It was.
Yes, it was.
Ended up in a pick. The miscommunication. And then I know it was a great interception in the end zone. But you know what? I don't blame Fields' interception, the first one in the end zone on Fields. I blame it on Ryan Day for not running the damn football there with the first and goal situation. And I said it during the game, this is one of the worst head coaching jobs in a big game by an Ohio State head coach, going back to John Cooper against Michigan State and maybe Urban Meyer against Michigan State when he wouldn't give the ball to Carlos Hyde.
I mean, it was one of those games where I wish Jim Tressel was the head coach because Trey Sermon probably would have had 500 yards rushing than 331. But hey, I mean, I'll take a bad coaching game from Ryan Day and still win by 12. Okay.
All right. Let me give some shout outs here. Jim Cater, Mergs Todd, and Paul J. Cray are checking us out on the Royal Docks post-game show today. What's up, fellas? Thanks for checking us out. And some comments from Mergs Todd. We should have blowed them out. I agree with you. Ryan Day, just like a few weeks ago, the Baker Mayfield kept the opposition in the game, right? Who was it? Jacksonville maybe, or whoever it was?
Yeah.
Today, Ryan Day kept Northwestern in the game with a terrible coaching job. No style points. Think we are out? No, Mergs. I don't think we're out. I don't think we're in 100% for sure, but I don't think we're out.
The first half was ugly.
Of them being in than there is out. Right, Josh?
They just dominated the number 14 team in the country in the second half. I mean, I know it's Northwestern. You can say it's the Big Ten. but they're still the number 14 team in the country.
If you watch that game today and you're thinking, oh, this is a Big Ten, you're thinking, boy, the Big Ten really sucks this year.
Well, you wouldn't be wrong, technically.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Paul J. Craig, Fields clearly not himself. Thumb. Yeah, in the second half. At what point? I don't know when he got hurt, Josh. Do you have any idea at what point Justin Fields got hurt?
I know they taped it up. They showed him taping it up in late third quarter, early fourth quarter, but who knows? They could have had a little bit of tape on it prior to that. I don't know. It just, I mean, I've never been a quarterback, especially at the big time college football level, but I feel like a tape around your hand that goes around your thumb cannot be comfortable for throwing a football.
Yeah. So we'll see. Last year in the playoff game against Clemson, it was a knee injury. He wasn't healthy. So now this year, if they get to the college football playoff game, will that thumb or wrist be healthy by then? Who knows? Kevin Rupel's checking us out. What's up, Rupes? The old SID at Baldwin Wallace, who recently retired. My good buddy who I worked for 4 years at Baldwin Wallace, checking us out here on the Royal Docks Brewing Company post-game show. Dale Milano also watching us today here on the post-game show. So let's start with the good, Josh. And it starts with Trey Sermon and the offensive line up front. That was one of the positives. While they missed Chris Olave and Browning at linebacker today, right? They got those linemen back, and they paved the way. Their names are going to be right next to Trey Sermon's in the record books for the offensive line that blocked for Sermon when he set the rushing record for a single game for Ohio State. So that was good to see with the run blocking and Trey Sermon's performance today.
I mean, yeah, you can't – anything you say about Trey Sermon and the offensive line today, I think it has to be positive. They struggled early on, but I think part of it was because Ryan Day was leaning way too much on the pass offense. But in the second half, they just wore down Northwestern. Right when Ohio State scored to take the lead, I was like, the game's over. Northwestern is just so worn down defensively that they just kept running the ball, and it was what it was.
I was waiting for Peyton Ramsey to make a mistake, and he did in the second half. Arguably the biggest play of the game was the interception in the end zone by
Justin Hilliard. And speaking of, Justin Hilliard had one heck of a game on defense.
He played his ass off, didn't he, today? 47. Justin Hilliard played his ass off today. Proctor could have had a pick six. He should have later in the game with another interception, which is fine. So defensively, Kerry Combs, tip of the cap. Great job making adjustments there. Kerry Combs made adjustments after 2 quarters. It took Ryan Day almost 3 full quarters to make adjustments to his play calling and just turn and give the ball to Trey Sermon. So again, offensive line, good to have them back from the COVID list or whatever it is. Garrett Wilson was a bit of a disappointment today. I thought, now maybe they doubled him a lot. Couldn't tell from the non-all 22 view of the game, right? But I thought they'd get more out of Garrett Wilson today. Maybe they didn't target him enough. I thought they'd run him with some jet sweeps since the passing game wasn't working. So I'm not sure what happened there, but the only bright spot offensively was Trey Sermon and the blocking for him. That's it. That won them the game offensively. They scored 22 points. He has their 2 touchdowns. And then you got what? How many what'd you get? 3 field goals?
3 field goals, right? Yeah, 3 field goals and a missed field goal.
Yeah, so
because they missed a 2-point conversion to make it 22.
Yeah, so it's just a crazy, ugly, weird game in a weird, crazy, ugly season, I guess.
And it was weird because they were without Chris Olave, arguably their number 1 receiver, and Garrett Wilson only caught 4 passes, and then they didn't target a tight end, which I found very, very strange.
I agree with you, Josh. I thought for sure we would see 1 or 2 touchdown passes to the tight ends in the red zone, right? And that's where they struggled. They were inside. What was it? They were inside at the 25 or inside the 25-yard line of Northwestern 4 times and came away with 6 points. That's it. Came away with 6 points at the 25 or closer, and you only come away with 6 points. I'm thinking, oh, shoot, here's Clemson all over again last year, where in the first half they scored field goals instead of touchdowns. And when it was only 16-10, I was still concerned, Josh. I'll be honest with you. 16-10, they settle for another field goal. I'm thinking, you know what? somebody gets behind the defense on a long pass and it's 17-16 and they try and come down and get picked in the end zone and they lose the game. But credit to the Buckeyes, even when they weren't at their best, they still found a way to beat North. Thank goodness it was Northwestern. That's what I'll say today. If that's Clemson today, they lose. If that's Notre Dame today, they lose. If that's Alabama, they lose. If that's Texas A&M, they lose. Right?
Let's be honest.
Too much of it.
I think there's so many questions. I mean, including Ohio State, there's so many questions surrounding every team besides Alabama. I think Alabama is by far the best team in the country. And then for like the other top four teams, you can make an argument as to why they should be in the playoff besides Alabama. Okay. That's why they're saying Alabama's in the playoff no matter what happens tonight.
Right.
Which I think
so. Deservedly so. Let's throw some of these up here. Quentin Singleton, with 6 games played by Ohio State, do they deserve to be in the playoffs? Yes, I think.
Just imagine if they don't make the playoff. Imagine how much crap Kevin Warren and the Big Ten are going to get. Because, I mean, let's be honest. Kevin Warren, I don't want to rag on the Big Ten too much, but he's the reason Ohio State only played 6 games.
True. The last score would have been nice and given them a 19-point win, which was closer. You had covered the last spread. Last spread was 17 points. That would have covered at the end there and maybe look better in the eyes of the committee, Josh. Or let me ask you this way. According to Greek 63, he wanted a 19-point win. Did the Buckeyes need a 19-point win or just a win to get in the eyes of the committee?
I think the question has been the last few weeks for the committee is how good is Ohio State's defense? Today, they leaned on the defense. I mean, the offense is poor, but we already know how good the offense can be, especially if fully healthy and Chris Olave is back in those. But the question for the Silver Bullets has always been, can they be good enough to be a playoff team? Today, I think they proved that they are.
It's a fair point. Fair point on your part. Let's go here to Mark Lanzer. What's up, Mark? I think Ohio State deserves to go to the CFP because they beat a top 15 team by 12 points, while Texas A&M beat an unranked team by 21. Texas A&M, I don't think has an argument, to be honest with you, Josh. I think the only team that would have an argument that could throw a monkey wrench into all of this would be Florida if they beat Alabama, even though with 2 losses, they played in the SEC. And if they convincingly beat Alabama, I think they have an argument because the SEC is the best conference in the country, right? Other team from the SEC, I think that has a legitimate argument.
I also think it's funny how all these SEC coaches in their post-game interviews are saying why they should be in the playoff. And Ryan Day, I can guarantee you, he won't say anything because he's undefeated. He doesn't need to make a statement as to why they should be in the playoff. Ohio State's proven it on the field. You know what I mean? I don't know. The SEC is obviously the toughest conference in college football, but it's not Ohio State's fault that the Big Ten just isn't good. It's not Ohio State's fault that they only played 6 games this year. They took care of business when they had to.
How about this one from Brad Fox as we throw it up on our screen, Josh? If they can't stop Northwestern, how are they ever going to stop Alabama, Clemson, or Notre Dame? Defense has some major things to work on. Brad, I'll go back to what Josh just said. 10 points against – or 12 points. Well, the safety doesn't count against them, right? So 10 points defensively in their last game, right, Josh, against MSU. 52 to 12 was the final there.
Yeah.
The defense only gives up 10, and then 10 today. So we're seeing first half. I understand where you're coming from, Brad. First half, yes. And a running quarterback seems to hurt the Buckeyes, but that's not Mac Jones. That is Ian Book from Notre Dame, and that is Trevor Lawrence, right? So that's something they still have to keep an eye on. But the defense, I think, has made strides. Are we now concerned about Justin Fields?
It's weird. If you would have told me
2
5
biggest
weeks
games
ago,
of the year, Indiana and Northwestern ranked, 5 interceptions in those 2 games. The pressure, you could see he was uncomfortable in the pocket with the pressure around him, held the ball too long, got sacked twice in the first half, 2 picks. That's 4 negative plays. Yes, the pressure broke down, but still, and an injured wrist and right thumb. I think there's reason to be concerned now about Justin Fields, don't you?
It's crazy how the biggest concern is Justin Fields, and we're not concerned about the defense or Trey Sermon. I feel like the script has completely flipped in like the last 3 weeks. But I think, he threw 2 interceptions today, but let's be honest. One of them was an incredible one-handed catch, and the other one was the wide receiver's fault. So on the box score, it says 2 interceptions, but can you really blame him for either one of those?
He threw the ball, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, if
he's
you
not
go
on
and
the
watch
same
film
page with his receiver on the one, maybe it's the younger receiver's fault near midfield, that interception. The one in the end zone, though, I mean, you can't turn it over in the end zone. You just can't. He did last year against Clemson. You just can't. To me, that the quarterback's got to take better care of the football there. The one at midfield, okay, maybe it's not his fault. That one, even though it was a great interception, you can't give the defender a chance to intercept the ball. That's the way I feel about it.
I'd have to go back and watch because I think he threw it.
Look at you. Who are you, Hugh Jackson? You got to go back and watch the film?
And watch the tape. No, but I think he threw it before Jamison Williams made the cut, expecting him to go out wide when Jamison Williams made the cut upfield. So I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses for Justin Fields, but I also feel like he threw 2 interceptions today. Yes. But I don't think either one was really his fault, technically. And let's be honest, if Ryan Day would have just ran the football, Justin Fields would have had to throw interceptions.
Fair point. George Errett says, do you think Ohio State played well enough to stay at number 4 and make the playoffs? Yes.
But it will be interesting to see how the Notre Dame-Clemson game goes tonight and how that affects Ohio. Because I think you don't want to be number 4 going into the playoffs. You don't want to play Bama. So if you're 3, that's perfect. Well, not perfect, but it's better than being number 4. So it'll be interesting to see, if Clemson dominates, if Notre Dame makes it, if Notre Dame dominates, is Clemson out? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the committee does depending on what happens tonight.
Jim Cater is checking us out. Send me a message. Roadman, you got to take Sermon for a ride in the road van. Hey, he took Northwestern for a ride today. 331 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ping-a-ling, baby. That's for my buddy Dwayne, Mr. Buckeye there in Brunswick. Bob Zielinski is watching us today, Josh, on the Royal Docks Brewing Company Buckeyes postgame show. What's up, Bob? Hugh Haggerty. If they are a run-first team, they have a chance to beat anyone if they run the ball like they did today. They won't face an undermanned D against Bama or Notre Dame, but they looked good today. Sermon reminds me of Alvin Kamara. In 2 games, Field went from the potential 2nd overall pick to a long-term green room resident like Aaron Rodgers. OSU will be in the playoff as the number 3 seed, according to Hugh Haggerty, with some serious thoughts on that.
Wait, did he just compare Justin Fields to Aaron Rodgers? I would gladly take Aaron Rodgers in a Buckeye uniform.
Okay, it's fair if that happens, right? Jim Reef is watching us today. Timothy M. Smith. They looked like a team that hadn't played a real game in a while. All right, let's go there.
True.
Timothy M. Smith. They play Michigan State. They've had some guys missing with COVID and everything, right? Coaches as well as players gear up to play their arch rival last week, who elects not to play supposedly because of COVID.
We won't talk about that.
Sunday, and then I saw their report that came out to me this morning from Michigan. They had 6 athletes test positive in the last week, but they didn't play last week. So how much of the rust excuse, the COVID missing players excuse, is fair to use for the Buckeyes in this situation, Josh Paloa?
As a passing game, I think you can use it because maybe they lost out on a bit of chemistry, especially with Chris Olave out. He's taking all the first-team reps. Jamison Williams, who knows how many reps he takes. Big Ten champs.
Well, that's the first of the 4, right? 17,
yes.
18, 19, and 20. This started the 4-year march.
4 in a row. Yeah, so a passing game, I think you can blame it on rust. But when that happens, you just lean on the running game. As Frankie.
You Frankie in the background?
Yeah, I would say as Frankie agrees with me.
Yeah, Frankie agrees with you. You should have heard him agreeing with me when I was screaming at the TV and Ryan Day, man.
See, I was relaxed. I was like, oh, Ohio State. In the second quarter, I was like, all right, this is ugly, but Ohio State's only down 4 points, so it's okay. Everything's going to be okay.
I'll throw this up here now on the bottom of the screen there. Number 4 in the country, 6-0, 4th consecutive Big Ten title. Hard to be upset with that. But for me, the way I look at Ohio State, and I think it's this way in Alabama and it's this way in Clemson.
The big picture.
Title's great, but the bigger picture is the national championship. Right now, when John Cooper was there, you'd have been thrilled with a Big Ten championship and a bowl win and a win over Michigan, right? Not anymore. Tressel and Urban Meyer set the bar so high that even though Ryan Day, and how about this? Ryan Day has not lost to a Big Ten team yet, right? In his 2 years as head coach. Hasn't lost a game against a Big Ten team. He's lost one time. And I'm bitching and moaning about him and his play calling today.
It sucks being an Ohio State fan. Let's be honest. Like, if Ohio State doesn't go undefeated and win a national championship, I'm angry. I know you're angry. I mean, it's perfection or nothing.
And that may be unfair in some people's minds, but they're at that level. They're with the Bamas and the Clemsons. It's those three and everybody else. Now, LSU snuck in, to the party last year and had just a remarkable year, the greatest single season ever by a quarterback in college football history, and a Power 5 team. They win the title. This year they stink. Ed Orgeron, one team, one heartbeat, go Tigers. Not this year. They're not back. They're
the only reason LSU was good is because they had an Ohio State kid, if we're being honest.
But that's the way I think with this team, because look at the recruits they have, right? We just got done with recruiting this week, and they got the second best recruiting class behind who? Alabama, and slightly ahead of who? Clemson. So that when you have that much talent, you should win championships, and not just Big Ten championships. You should win national championships. And last year, they should have beat Clemson last year and at least played for the title. They came up short. Today, I was kind of having that similar feeling that, oh, shoot, you imagine the abuse they would have taken if they lost to Northwestern, a 17-point dog at kickoff in the Big Ten championship game? So that's why I look at the big picture and say, okay, this performance today, how would that be against, in 2 weeks, Notre Dame? They lose. How would it be against Clemson? They lose. Alabama, they lose. Okay, so that's, I guess, it's a coach's mindset. That's kind of the way I picture things. That's the way I watch games. I'm not, and it's terrible, I guess, I'm not a fan so much as I am thinking from a coaching standpoint and always looking ahead to the next game. You know where I'm coming from?
Bama, I'm scared of Alabama no matter what. Clemson's passing game scares me, but Ohio State's defense showed a lot of promise today, especially they were without three safeties. One of them was on the he didn't make the trip. They don't know if it's good. They won't say if it's COVID or not. And then
Marcus
I know
Hooker was a game time, right? Decision.
Yeah, he didn't play, and then Ronnie Hickman also did not play. He was not even on that pregame list. So they were without three safeties today and still looked. I mean, granted, it's Northwestern, but if you're the
12th ranked offense in the Big Ten, Josh. Remember that now. 12th ranked offense, Northwestern. Yeah.
But and they were without Baron Browning to the second leading tackler this season. I just feel like they were missing a lot, and other guys stepped up and proved that maybe the Silver Bullets can be the side of the ball that the Ohio State can lean on, especially in an ugly game like that.
How about this? Moving forward, they're going to have to lean on their defense to make plays. After what I saw with Justin Fields in the two biggest games, right? This again, I judge the Buckeyes based on the bar that they've set as a team. I judged, Justin Fields based on Heisman finalists last year, supposedly the number 2 pick in this year's draft. And in the two biggest games, Indiana and Northwestern, they win by 7 and 12, 5 turnovers from Justin Fields. How many were 100% his fault? Did you see Urban Meyer before the game breaking it down? Urban Meyer says it's 50, 30, 20. 50% of the time it's the quarterback's fault. 30% of the time maybe the receiver runs the wrong route. And then 20% it's a tip ball, a drop ball, and it's intercept. I get that, okay? But still, you can't turn the ball over 5 times if you're a Heisman Trophy candidate in the 2 biggest games of the year. And those teams aren't from the SEC or the ACC. They're from a weak Big Ten.
A really, really weak Big Ten. I think that's the only reason why I'm still a little scared. I mean, I think they're not going to leave an undefeated Ohio State team out of the playoff, but it's the only thing that little bit scary is because they can just say the Big Ten's not good this year. Ohio State only played 6 games. But yeah, I don't, like you said, it's weird that, especially today, they leaned on Trey Sermon and the defense to win a football game.
I'd have laughed at you if you would have told me that.
Agreed. Agreed.
You're crazy, Joe. You've been up drinking all night? Would you go back down to Columbus and hang out there, Mirror Lake and all that with whoever was out there? Sipping, putting a straw through your mask and drinking? I mean, yeah, if you would have told me that before the game, I thought you'd be nuts or drunk or both. Okay. But
that will always be amazing that the Trey Sermon and Justin Hilliard game. And if you would have told me that before the game, I'd have been like, no way. Justin Hilliard wouldn't have even started if Baron Browning was healthy. And Trey Sermon, I mean, he showed out the last couple of weeks, but he struggled early on.
Mightily. A couple of more shout outs. Justin Worley is watching us on the Buckeyes post-game show. Thanks, Justin. And David Tecco is watching us. And I think he's got, that's an Ohio State shirt that he's got on there. So a little OHIO for David checking in with us. All right, let's look at the defense a little closer then, Josh. You mentioned Justin Hilliard. Outstanding game today. Proctor played pretty well. Seven Banks got beat a couple of times, right? But was not a bad game. Sean Wade, I think they threw away from him except for a couple of times. So you get Hooker back. Now if you're Ryan Day, you're Kerry Combs. Browning, you got to play Hilliard more. And maybe you take Warner out or Tuff Borland out, and you're not afraid of putting Hilliard in there. Garrett Haskell, I thought played Haskell. Garrett. Yeah. He thought he played well today. Togi was okay. Cooper was close, right? The big block and zero.
The defensive line played really well today. They didn't get to the quarterback too much, but they had a lot of pressure in the backfield.
Yeah, is it Tyreek Smith? Number 11?
Yeah.
He's a kid. Defense, maybe they're starting to hit their stride and feel comfortable with back-to-back 10-point games given up defensively, right? So if Justin Fields isn't 100%, and let me ask you this before I forget. I wanted to bring this up earlier. Did Master Teague get hurt?
No, I just think they leaned on I think he only had 2 carries. I'd have to look. 2
carries, and usually
they were both in the first half,
guys, right? So for him not to play at all, though, even to spell Trey Sermon, I'm wondering, and I haven't looked on Twitter yet. I don't know, post-game injury notes or anything like that, what's been given at this point. But I'm wondering if Master Teague, because he had 2 carries for, 23 yards, I think, and he had a catch the first drive, right? So both
of those carries were in the second or the first half as well. So I don't think he played. I wasn't paying attention too closely, but I don't think he played at all.
You know why? We were mesmerized by Trey Sermon. We didn't think about him, but maybe, just maybe, an injury to Master Teague forced them to play Trey Sermon the entire game, and then eventually they fed him the damn football, and he ran for a school record 331 yards.
And by the way, Twitter says he was out of the game, and they will doctors will have to evaluate him the next few days. So I don't know.
Master Teague, is that what it is?
Yeah, Master Teague. So I don't know if he was sick or he got hurt or what.
Possible concussion, maybe. I'll have to go back and look and see if he took a big hit, early on in that game, if that affected him. But Trey Sermon, the benefactor of that, right?
Absolutely.
Feed him the ball.
Just like we all expected Trey Sermon to be the dominant running back that he was today.
What's up, Mark Smith, checking in with us on the Buckeyes post-game show here. Let me see if I got some more comments I can throw up here on the screen. Nathaniel Maiku is checking us out, as he always does. Good games. Well, the last 2 they won weren't pretty. Little agonizing, frustrating, but Nathaniel, we'll take the W, right?
Kenny, the best thing about 6-0 is the chance to go 7-0, right?
Okay.
Come on.
Okay, Herb. All right. Yeah, look at you. Did you take his class when you were at Ohio State?
I wish. No, that was always filled up before us regular students could even try to take the classes like that.
I will say this about Urban Meyer. 3 national championships, 2 at Florida, 1 at Ohio State. Great winning percentage. He may be a better analyst than he was a head coach. I learned a ton watching him on that Fox Get Up at Noon or Big Noon, or I don't know what they call their
noon kickoff.
What is it?
Big Noon kickoff. Although for some of us, it could be Get Up at Noon. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but I learned so much from him when I watched that show. Absolutely love that show, man. That's better. I'm sorry. That's better than game day.
Game day. Absolutely. I mean, he's living the dream right now, too. I don't know why he'd ever come back to coaching. Only work on Saturdays, be with the family all week. The only thing I don't like about Urban today is he wore a purple tie.
Yeah, what was that?
Urban, what are you doing?
Is he trying to show he's not biased? Is that what it is?
But then it's like he went the complete opposite direction and showed bias toward Northwest. I don't know. It's weird. I was like, Urban, just like go neutral. Why are you wearing purple?
All right, let's throw this up.
Something little, but
always checking in with us. Hard-fought game, too hard. I agree, Connie. Can they compete with any of the other three? Great question, Connie. If they play like they did today, no. Even though Trey Sermon set a record, school record for rushing yards, even though the defense played very well in the second half, that effort today, you lose to Notre Dame, Clemson, and Alabama with that effort today. Right or wrong, Josh Paloha?
I don't know too much about Notre Dame, but I think, well, you for sure lose to Alabama. Clemson, see, I don't know too much about Clemson either besides Trevor Lawrence, but I don't know. I feel like they played well today besides Justin Fields. If Justin Fields has an average game, they dominate.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Ralph Ruschek, it's 2020. Got to take what you can get this year. Go Bucks.
True. Very true.
Should we approach it from here on out with that attitude that they got through the regular season and the Big Ten championship game? At least they played it. They won it. They're 6-0. And if they get in, just don't set that bar too high in the Final Four because they'll probably be considered the underdog against every team. So should we take Ralph Ruschek's approach to the remaining games that the Buckeyes hopefully will play, and that would be 2?
I want to say yes, but I'm an Ohio State perfectionist. So,
yeah, I know. People hate me for that, and that's okay. It's just the way I'm wired. Jim Kincaid is watching us today on the Royal Docks Brewing Company game show here with the Buckeyes. Thanks, Jim. They looked flat from not playing a couple of weeks, but pulled it together in the second half. So, Jim, there's the glass half full as opposed to the Mr. Negative, according to LeBron James, glass half empty. So
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, I know. You know what? It was funny. We played it on the show, on the Kenny and JT show earlier this week. It was 6 years ago. It was
6 years already?
6 years, yeah. When David Blatt, they lost to the Atlanta Hawks by like 30. And David Blatt said it was an embarrassing performance. And I went and asked LeBron James, are you embarrassed by this loss? And he said, embarrassed, no. You only ask negative questions? Hey, that wasn't my word. That was your coach's word who said that. I'm just repeating that to you. So it was a
oh, man. Mm-hmm. I was like, wait, did LeBron really just call out Kenny?
Yeah, whatever. It's my buddy.
And you only show up when they lose or something, right. Even though you're at like every game.
That, I'd go to Vegas and bet on you every time. Then if I knew we were going to lose, and I'd win money and be retired on my own island. But should we, because it is 2020, how much do we take that into consideration? Should we take that into consideration? And the fact that they've only played 6 games, and the last 2 games they've had in the teens or low 20s, players out, Josh, moving forward. How much do we approach the remaining games that way?
I feel like we should approach it. Hey, it's 2020. 2020 is weird, but going forward, depending on what Ohio State does in the playoff, assuming they make it, they'll be judged by that. You can say 2020 is weird, but the Buckeyes will be judged. Say they lose, get blown out by someone. Next year, they'll be like, well, does Ohio State deserve a spot in the playoff after getting blown out last year and losing to Clemson 2 years? Yeah, it's just one of those things where the playoff committee and the SEC fans especially will always use previous years as an example as to what should happen. But then again, Ohio State was supposed to get blown out by Alabama, 4 years ago now, was it? And Cardale Jones won it all. So, I mean, just get to
2014, dude. And same year as LeBron. Yeah, 6 years ago. A lot of good anniversaries back then, 6 years ago.
Yeah, so I guess just get in the playoff and just when you have if you have a healthy Justin Fields and a hopefully good coaching Ryan Day, which he did not show today, but I have a lot of faith in Ryan Day. I feel like you can beat anyone, hopefully. Especially if Trey Sermon is a good running back like you showed today.
The line of the day on Twitter. The line of the day coming in on Twitter from Robert J. Walker. You can follow him on Twitter at FFalcon52. OSU went to church in Indy. They got a great sermon. Line of the day. Preach it. Preach it, Robert J. Walker. Let's see here. Oh, look at this. Bob Karlovic from my old days at WKNR, Jeff Sindelar's legendary producer, Karlovic. He says, they sure didn't look like one of the 4 best teams. They will probably still make the national semifinal, especially with USC and Iowa State losing. I didn't even pay attention to any of the other games.
Oklahoma won by 6. Okay. But they have 2 losses, so even as a Big 12 champ, I don't think they stand a chance.
Matt Campbell getting a lot of love from Perry High School out our way in Stark County, but they come up on the short end. They were trying to win, I think, their first ever Big 12 championship, Iowa State, but they come up short. Spalding Sales. You'll get nothing like it, Spalding. Just run and pound a team till they give up. They may have to count on their running game moving forward if Justin Fields can't throw. What else do we have here? Roadman, you suck. Buckeyes won, you should be happy. Thanks, appreciate that.
Wait, hold on. Did LeBron leave that comment?
No, that wasn't from LeBron, no.
Okay.
Let's see. Come here. They keep coming in here. Lorenzo Trezino. Great name, man.
I love it. I want that name. I want that name.
I'm spreading the word. Keep an eye on head coach Day. No guarantee he's the long-term answered head coach. Remember Earl Bruce first season after Woody looked great. How did it look the other 6 years? Should have had a national search for a head coach. No, I'm not ready to go. That's a great name, Lorenzo, but I'm not ready to go there.
Ryan
Day. He hasn't lost a Big Ten game yet. Okay? He's won 2 Big Ten titles. All right? I'm not ready to go there. Am I pissed? We can call out a coach just like a player when they have a bad day. That doesn't mean we dislike the coach. We don't think he's a good coach. He just had a bad game plan or a bad day calling plays. He didn't adjust quickly enough. So
a bad day, pun
not
intended.
ready to go there about Ryan Day. Not quite.
At least he's an Ohio State perfectionist like us. I mean, Ryan Day's won 2 straight Big Ten championships, and he wants to let him go. That is a perfectionist to the very most. I mean, Ryan, you're allowed to have bad games. I mean, I'll take a bad game when you win by 12.
Jim Cater, Roadman, Coach Luke says no defense, no J in the Justin. Oh, I get it. He's playing off the old Eamon Owens.
Eamon Owens.
Eamon Jones, no D, no J. Eamon Owens. So today, I guess you call him Austin Fields. No J. The defense came alive in the second half. It's all about the T and the pigs.
I knew that was throwing it when I heard that name.
Pigs. Thanks for that, Jim. Ralph Ruscheck. Let's see. Wasn't it like 22 players were out today? They have time to get people healthy and get the team back on track. So Ralph's still feeling comfortable and confident. Craig Easterday, who always watches us, is checking us out again today on the post-game show. Thanks, Craig. Tell Deb I said hi. And he'll probably have a comment coming up here. All right, so Buckeyes win.
Wait, before we get too far, I also want to say that if the Big Ten doesn't change their protocols for COVID, Chris Olave and others might miss the playoff.
I'm hearing they could drop it to 17 days, which would be just enough to get them in time for the semifinal. Or this is the other thing that we don't know. The college football playoff semifinal is not a Big Ten game. Therefore, do you still have to abide by the Big Ten protocols, or do you abide by college football and the protocols that they would set for the semifinals and the final? We don't know yet, Josh. That's
I think the committee said that it goes by the conference. I think the committee said it goes by the conference, but the Big Ten is 21 days when all the other conferences are like 14 tops. So I feel like even if you change the rules for Ohio State like they did to get them in the championship, even though they deserve to, it's still just matching up with the other conferences that are going to be competing in the same exact playoff.
We'll see.
It'll be interesting.
Olave, and here's the other thing to keep in mind, though, Josh, too, that we don't know, right? We don't know when Olave tested positive. What if it was early, right? And so that 21-day period, or if they cut it to 17 days, or here's the other thing, we don't know for sure that Olave is positive for COVID. It might have just been a tracing thing, right?
Yes.
What if it was a false positive test? So those are things that come into factor when you determine who is eligible and who won't be eligible to play. My concern is this. You got 2 weeks till you play again if you're the Buckeyes and you get in. Everybody better wear a mask 24/7 and don't do a damn thing where there's anybody near you so you can be as healthy as you can going into that game. How did Northwestern go the entire year? Well, that's the smart school, Josh.
The doctors, come on.
You graduated from Ohio State. My son graduated from Ohio State. Good school. But let's be honest, the old, Northwestern's cheer back in the day, that's all right. That's okay. You're going to work for us someday. You know, they used to say, because they were the brains of the Big Ten. That's all right. That's okay. You're going to work for us someday. So they didn't have a player test positive all year.
Which is crazy.
If I'm Ryan Day, I say, Pat, all right, we beat you. I didn't run it in there for that last touchdown to, make it a 19-point win. What'd you do? Help me out here. I got to keep my guys, away from the Rona for 2 weeks and even 3 weeks if we can make it to the final. What did you do? How did you guys complete the season without a single positive test?
The good news is that I'm sure there's going to be some very strict rules that Ryan Day will put in place. But
will the players adhere to them, though, Josh?
Yeah, well, Ohio State's on break. So unless you go out to downtown or something, which I mean, if you're a player, you shouldn't be doing that anyways during this time. But there's literally nothing to do on campus. You
know what they should do?
Put them in a hotel.
They should put alert bracelets on them or something. So if they go off campus or they go outside, they warning, danger, and you can't go anywhere. I know it's sacrificing a lot. I'd be willing to wear that. Give me the alert bracelet. If I got a chance to win a national championship and I've 3 more weeks of this crazy season and COVID and kind of bubbleize it at Ohio State, I'd be willing to do that as a player. So I wouldn't ask them to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do, Josh.
And I know, I'm sure guys like Justin Fields and those guys aren't going to be doing anything, but all you need is a 5th string tight end to go out and get it and then give it to the team. I mean, it's literally any player, either he's a star or the 120th player on the team. If anyone gets it, who knows what could happen. I'm
surprised that Garrett Wilson didn't have it. He and Olave are roommates. So,
and Brian Hartline, they said during the game that Hartline doesn't have it, but it was contact tracing. So I wonder how Brian Hartline was out due to contact tracing, but Garrett Wilson wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know anything about contact tracing much, but that just seemed odd to me.
Craig Easterday. Sermon was phenomenal, and Ryan Day finally made it the sermon show. Hallelujah. I agree, man. I was screaming and yelling. Thought people I saw it in the first half, Josh. I don't know why it took Ryan Day so long to change the game plan.
He just wanted to make things interesting.
Okay, yeah. Jeremy Babin is watching us. David Johnson is watching us today on the Royal Docks Brewing Company post-game show. All right, so tomorrow, what is it, Joshy? Noon?
I think it's noon.
Committee show, right?
Yeah. Well, noon. They'll probably show the final rankings at 12:59 for an hour show. But yeah, noon.
Right. What time? I'm not sure what time the games are. You're able to look at your computer screen as my iPad is not working. Or let me rephrase that. I'm not working the iPad right yet as I'm trying to figure out how to get through some of these things here. What are you seeing score-wise or game-wise right now with of games that maybe matter to Ohio State?
Clemson is up 7-3 end of the first quarter. Notre Dame has ball at their own 35.
Okay.
And then tonight, so that game matters, obviously. And then tonight, 8 o'clock, Alabama versus Florida. And Texas A&M already won, so they beat Tennessee.
Tennessee.
So those are really the
Mike Johansson, sorry. Your football team is sorry. And
shout out to the Johansson.
How did they not have a quarter? They're like Michigan right now? Who would win between Tennessee and Michigan? I think it'd be 0-0, and they'd play 8 overtimes, and nobody would score. That's how bad both teams are.
True.
How do you get a quarterback at either one of those schools? I watched the one game for Tennessee, and I'm like, what? That guy couldn't start at Mount Union that was starting for Tennessee at quarterback. I was like, what the heck? Well,
at least
13 they lost today.
Tennessee. At least the Johanssons and the Tennessee fans know that they're bad. Michigan fans still think that they're like the number 1 team in the country. And then every year it's like, oh, we're going to win the Big Ten. And then boom, week 1 hits. And it's like being a Browns fan in any year besides 2020.
So it was 24-13 at the half. A&M led by 11. 24-13 going into the fourth quarter. And then they scored 10 to pull away. I'm not going to, dog Texas A&M because Ohio State barely beat Northwestern today. But that Northwestern's better than Tennessee. Okay, I just go there. Tennessee won 3 games. Who did they play? Baldwin Wallace, Otterbein, and Case Western to get their 3 wins.
And the starting quarterback just entered the transfer portal. So
yeah, Oklahoma beat Iowa State 27-21. I'm not worried about the Big 12. A&M's 9-1. They're going to bitch and moan and gripe and say, look, we play in the toughest conference. We're 9-1. Our only loss was who'd they lose to? A&M. Was it Alabama?
They got blown out by Alabama, I think. Yeah. And Jimbo Fisher made sure to mention that today, that no one-loss SEC team has ever not made the playoff.
Okay. Thank you.
So it is what it is, Jimbo. You're not going to make it.
Trevor Lawrence, 5 of 7, 88 yards, a touchdown, and an interception so far. Ian Book, 5 of 6, 75 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 7-3 Clemson and Notre Dame. So we're rooting for Notre Dame, right? Because they're not taking a 2-loss Clemson team, right? I mean, isn't that? I mean, Notre Dame to prove that the first time wasn't a fluke, even though it was like double or triple overtime, 47-40. We're rooting for Notre Dame to say, yeah, see, we beat them twice with their starting quarterback, with their backup quarterback. So if you're a Buckeyes fan based on this performance today, just in case, you root for Notre Dame, as hard as that might be, because I hate the Crying Irish.
Well, I think Notre Dame win also moves Ohio State up to number 3. So, yes, absolutely Notre Dame. Because I think even if Clemson would make it as a 2-loss team, they'd move down to number 4. I guess it's a win-win, because if Ohio State moves up to 3, you, 1, miss Alabama, and 2, if Texas A&M becomes number 4, they're going to get blown out by Bama and get shown why they shouldn't have been in the playoff anyways.
I got to give another shout-out. Bert Grafe, the old Cavaliers beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, retirement. Hope you're enjoying retirement, Bert. I see you on Facebook a lot. Thanks for watching us today on the Buckeye Postgame Show. Mark Del Coro is also watching us today. Jim Kincaid says his brother Denny will be crying in his Irish coffee tonight. He expects them to get beat. So, all right, let's throw this scenario.
Uh-oh.
Clemson wins. Notre Dame has 1 loss, but their only loss is to Clemson, and they beat Clemson. Does Clemson move up to 2, Notre Dame to 3, and Ohio State stay at 4? Or does Ohio State overtake Notre Dame with 1 loss and be the 3 seed?
Man.
Put it to you this way. As you think about that, here's my thought on it. I always do this to JT. I ask a question and then answer it before he can. But when it comes into my mind, I got to get it out. I think Ohio State, if they make the playoff, they're going to be the 4 seed with 1 exception. And that would be if Clemson loses to Notre Dame convincingly with 2 losses, they're moved out. Notre Dame stays at 2. Ohio State moves up to 3. A&M would move to 4. Okay. Other than Clemson losing, I think Ohio State stays at 4 and they play Alabama in the first round. Now,
I do not want to play Alabama in the first round either.
Why not? You're going to have to play them eventually. They did when they won it in 2014.
Yeah, I know, but Alabama's just Alabama this year. That's a tough question. I feel like not only the win-loss matters tonight, but how the teams look. Like if Clemson barely wins, or if Clemson gets, or I guess it would be if Notre Dame barely loses, or if Clemson gets blown out.
Yeah.
I don't know. If it's a close game, it will certainly be interesting, no matter who wins or loses. That's a tough one. And you can never count on the committee. The committee changes their prerequisites every week, anyways.
They've been pretty consistent, though, from the get-go, right? Every week it's been the same, hasn't it?
Yeah, the top four has been the same for like 4 straight weeks. Yeah.
Alabama was one all 4 weeks. I don't know if Clemson, Notre Dame, how that was. I forget how that was, if it was Clemson and then Notre Dame and then they flip-flop, but all 4 teams have been the same.
Well, hey, to add to that situation that you just asked, what if Florida beats Alabama and Clemson beats Notre Dame?
So Florida beats
Ohio State out. I think Ohio State would be. I think that is the only way Ohio State doesn't make it is if Clemson beats Notre Dame and Florida beats Bama. Because you can't leave Florida out then, can you? Even though they got steamrolled by LSU last week.
All right, how about this, though? You might want to research this. Don't take it to the bank, but I think I saw it on the internet, which means it's probably true. I do not believe in the college football playoff era, going back to 2014, a 2-loss team has ever made the college football playoff.
You are correct. A 2-loss team has never
Florida
made it.
has 2 losses, right? Remember this, Josh Paloha. Penn State
Bama.
10 championship, right? A few years ago. Who went to represent the Big Ten in the playoff?
The Buckeyes, and then they got steamrolled by Clemson.
31-0. So maybe not a good choice by the college football playoff committee. But if Florida should sneak by Alabama and get that win, 2 losses, do they take a 2-loss SEC team over a 0-loss Ohio State Big Ten team? That would be the debate right there, right?
I kind of hope that happens. Then they choose Ohio State just so I can see all the SEC fans cry about it. But that's beside the point.
All right, so if you're a Buckeye fan and you don't want to have to worry about that, you root for Alabama. You root
Bama by 100.
Notre Dame and Alabama are your 2 favorite teams right now since the Buckeyes aren't playing any football at this time. They played their game today. They struggled. They got some guys dinged up. They had guys out with COVID, but they won 22-10. You saw a historic performance by Trey Sermon today. I mean, have we given that enough justice, enough due?
I mean, he just broke Eddie. Record? Yeah, he just broke Eddie George's record. I don't think, even if you talk about it a little bit, it's still not enough. I don't think
Archie Griffin, 2 Heisman trophies, Hopalong Cassidy, Eddie George, Keith Byers, Ezekiel Elliott. No, the all-time single-game record belongs to a transfer from Oklahoma who stunk at the beginning of the year.
Stunk, like really bad.
And they don't win the Big Ten title game without him, 331 yards.
You even had that really good thing where you're like, he starts off slow, and then he gets through the hole, and then he speeds up, and then he's tackled.
So, I mean, my goodness.
Yeah,
331.
If you would have told me, like, $100 that Trey Sermon will break the record today, I would have taken that bet 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, exactly. And he could have had 400 if Ryan Day would have gave him the damn ball in the first half.
Northwestern, they showed nothing to stop Trey Sermon. Literally nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Master Teague's injury. I won't say it's bad when kids get hurt, but maybe Master Teague's injury was the reason that they went to Trey Sermon. I don't know. I guess we'll find out what Master Teague did too.
Mayan Williams, I think, got 1 carry, didn't he? Mayan Williams?
Yeah, in the second half. Yeah, so Trey Sermon got every carry in the second half besides 1.
Yeah. And Mayan Williams was from Cincinnati LaSalle. I remember seeing him in the state championship game. I was surprised Demario McCall wasn't involved in the offense today. I was surprised the tight ends weren't involved with the offense today as well. That's on Ryan Day. All right, final thoughts, Joshy. As we're going to wrap this up, I'm going to go take Frankie out, and then I'm going to watch some more of the games that we're rooting for. God, Notre Dame.
Yeah, I want to say go Irish, but do I really want to say that?
I can't say that. I'll watch and root for him, but I'm not saying. Go ahead. So final thoughts.
All right, so I won't even say the Irish. I hope the gold helmets win tonight. Well, right now, not Clemson out. And, yeah, I guess as an Ohio State fan, we're big Notre Dame and Alabama fans tonight. Only tonight, though. Never, ever besides tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Unless we need them to do it again next year. If it comes down to this.
True.
Buckeyes a winner, not pretty. Ryan Day, one of his worst coaching jobs. but he's still undefeated against all the Big Ten schools. He only has one loss. Buckeyes, I would put their last thing, Josh, one more thing. Here we go. What percentage do you give the Buckeyes of and thank God for this, the COVID vaccine is out now, and they say it's 95% effective in the trials that they've done. So 95% is pretty good. And everybody out there, please wash your damn hands, wear your damn mask, social distance. And it's your choice whether to get the vaccine or not. But a doctor friend of mine got it yesterday, and I talked to him today via text, and he's feeling fine. So he wanted to do it. So Dr. AJ Seth, kudos to you for getting it. He said, I wanted to take it to show my patients that it's okay to get it, but it's your decision. But 95% is a pretty good percentage there. So what would you give the Buckeyes percentage on getting into the college football playoff tomorrow by 1:00? We'll know.
90. I'll leave 10%, 90. Because I don't think Florida stands any chance against Bama tonight, and I think that's the only way Ohio State doesn't make it.
All right, I'm going to go 85%. Those two scenarios that you brought up. If Florida should blow out Alabama for whatever reason, and Clemson beats Notre Dame in a close game, those are two scenarios that have me concerned as a Buckeye fan based on what I saw today.
But then you could say if Clemson beats Notre Dame might be the odd man out as a one-loss team, and the part of me just says it's hard to keep out an undefeated Ohio State team, no matter what happens.
Yeah, I know, but it's only 6 games.
Yeah.
Play 10 games like these other schools did. That could hurt. That's why I thought they needed a blowout win like 59-0 over Wisconsin today, right? Just to say, you know what? Yeah, we only played 6, but we beat Michigan State 52-10, and we beat Northwestern today 42-7, right? No doubt. We scored 100 points in our last 2 games, held them to under 20 in the last 2 games. Our defense is getting better. Our offense is led by a Heisman Trophy candidate in Justin Fields. And you can't not keep us or you can't not put us in the playoff based on our last 2 games. Well, based on today's game, Justin Fields is hurt. He played terrible, and you struggled to beat Northwestern by 12. That's why I'm going 85% with those 2 scenarios out there about Florida beating Alabama and Notre Dame losing a close game to Clemson. We'll see what happens tomorrow. All right, Josh.
Based on today's game, Trey Sermon might be the Heisman candidate on this team, if we're being honest.
Wow. What do you have last game, Josh? What did he rush for against?
I think he ran for 100 something.
Yeah, so does he have like 500 yards rushing in the last 2 games?
He had 331 today. Yeah. And
I'm going to mark this down. 331 against Northwestern.
And 112 against Michigan State.
Oh, is that all? I thought he had more than that. Okay.
And then before that, he had 240 yards in 4 games.
Yeah. So 443 yards his last 2 games. Similar. Hey, all I'm saying, and Ryan Day needs to look at this. Those numbers, how did Ohio State win the national championship in 2014? Who'd they ride?
Zeke, feed Zeke. Just like this tattoo.
700 yards in the last 3 games for Zeke, right? About 700 yards and like 5 or 6 touchdowns. And then they play action to off the running game with Cardell Jones.
Yep.
And Smith and those guys, right? Just keep that in mind, Ryan Day. Don't be pass happy, okay? That's not right now.
Ryan Day should just borrow Kevin Stefanski's playbook, especially if Justin Fields isn't 100%. Just go play action and run heavy.
By the way, people, we'll do our post-game show after the Browns game tomorrow night. Sunday Night Football, primetime, Browns and Giants. Freddie Kitchens calling the plays for the Giants. Going to start probably a quarterback for the Giants. We'll do this like we're doing it right now, talking Browns tomorrow night on Facebook and Twitter. So, Josh, if you want to join me, if you're up late tomorrow night, let me know, all right?
I'll be up late, especially because the Browns are going to win, hopefully. I can never say that the Browns are going to win for sure because it's the Browns, but there's no way Freddie Kitchens and Colt McCoy beat the Browns. Come on.
Okay.
I'm saying it right now. There's no way that happens.
Let's see here. Here's one before I go anywhere. From Becca Moore, the wife of head coach Nate Moore from Massillon. She listens to the shows on social media quite a bit. She says, wow, did you take into consideration that they had to cancel a game a few weeks ago? Then they had players out for a game against Michigan State, several out again today. Everyone who doesn't coach always thinks they know better, I guess. Becca, here's my biggest concern today, okay? And that is with who they had, okay, forget who was hurt, who had COVID, when they didn't play. It was painfully obvious to myself and a lot of other people that the strength today to win the game was to run the football. Ryan Day refused to do that until about the midway point of the third quarter. That's where my concern was today with the Buckeyes. All right, so that's what I'll say. But thanks for that. Also, Nate Moore saying lack of respect for Northwestern. Don't understand this comment. Winning is hard. This is not 90s Northwestern. Congrats to Ohio State for winning the Big Ten. And that's a coach understanding maybe what it takes to go through. But again, setting the bar so high, Nate and Becca. Hey, happy that they won. Let's hope it's enough to get in. But this wasn't, up to Buckeye standards today in the win over Northwestern, in my opinion. So,
and with Nate's comment,
please.
Pat Fitzgerald deserves either a big payday or I think he's going to go to a big-time Division I school. I mean, Northwestern's just not a football school or the NFL because he is a really good head coach.
Okay. I think he's a lifer there, Josh. I think he knows he'll never get fired. He played there. He's a legend as a player.
But money talks, though.
But job security. Do you want the money or do you want the job security, right? Do you want the big payday and then get fired? And then, if it does, because if he goes somewhere else and he doesn't win, guess what happens? They fire you. At Northwestern, you're not a football factory like Ohio State, right? You're not. Again, that's okay. That's all right. That's okay. You're going to work for us someday. The academics at Northwestern, that to them is more important, I think, than a football factory, although they want to compete, and he gives them that chance to compete. And I don't think they would ever fire him unless he did something horrible off the field, and he's not that kind of a guy off the field. So I think he's a lifer, or he put it to you this way. He stays at Northwestern as long as he wants to stay at Northwestern. And I don't know if he's good enough or has won enough big games to go somewhere else.
If I'm Michigan, I back up the Brinks truck and write out a blank check for him. But that's just me. I kind of agree with you, though. He's a lifer. He can never do any. Although, I guess if you stay at one place too long, you can eventually do wrong. But he can never do any. I mean, if they're good at football, that's great. If they're bad at football, they're not at a football school.
All right, Joshy, I'm done, man. I want to go watch some football, have some road pops, and check out the other games. If you want, we'll join again tomorrow night after the Browns beat the Giants. How's that?
Go Bucks.
All right, go Bucks areas. Hey, Josh, real quick podcast. I forgot to mention it earlier. Where can people get the podcast and any of your blogs?
Waitingfornextyear.com. It's a Cleveland-based sports blog that we just talk anything and everything Cleveland and Ohio State.
What is it? WFNY, right?
Yeah, WFNY for short. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Josh, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks. Josh Paloha, proud Ohio State grad. We wrap things up here. Buckeyes a winner over the Northwestern Wildcats, 22-10. Not pretty, but it's a win. Was it enough to get them in the playoff? We'll find out tomorrow at around noon, 12:30-ish. We'll see. I'm going to go watch the other games. We'll do this again tomorrow night after the Browns game. Thanks for checking in with us, everybody that sent in questions and comments. We appreciate it. Thanks to our sponsor, Royal Docks Brewing Company. We appreciate your support all year long. And let's hope the Buckeyes are playing in 2 weeks in the college football playoff. Go Bucks.